I remember that night like it was etched into the back of my eyelids, replaying every time I close them. It was late summer, the con where heat lingers in the air even after the sun dips below the ridges, but the nights turned cool and clammy. I just finished a double shift at the warehouse in Charleston, loading crates until my back screamed for mercy. My name's Harlan, and I've been driving East Mountain Road since I was all enough to reach with paddles on a grindize old Ford. Route 60 is my usual haul back to my place in the Holland near Pocahontas County, twisting blacktop that snakes through the Appalachians like a vein of code through rock. It's beautiful in the daylight, with the green hills rolling on forever. But at night, as sun melts entirely, the darkness presses in, thick and alive, and you start to feel like the only soul left in the world. That particular year, I was bone tired. The candy exhaustion that make your eyes heavy and your mind wander. My wife Sarah had called earlier, her voice soft over a crackling line, reminded me to pick up milk on the way home. We had a little girl, Emma, just turned 5, and she was waking up for a bear time story. In part them caught me going as I pushed the torque higher their shoe. The radio was fading in or picking up fragments of some preacher's sermon about lost sheep in the wilderness, fitting I suppose given where I was. The fog started rolling around midnight, seeping from the valleys like smoke from an hidden fire. It clung to trees, those ancient oaks and pines that are in the road, their branches written on like fingers trying to snare you as you pass. I heard the tears suppose everywhere in these parts ours. Stores as the raw campfires or old beers look time. Folks vanishing on these back roads, that cars found abandoned with doors flung open as if they jumped out in a panic. The authorities always chalk it up to wildlife, black bears getting aggressive or packs of coyotes driven bold by hunger. But the old time was whispered different. They talk about people gone pharaoh, descendants of man as a logos who got lost in the woods decades ago, surviving on whatever amounts provide, turning wild over generations. The heels take what they want, the grandeye to say, it has distant instead to defy. Bleed a mutt, practical man, fix what's broken, keep moving forward. At night, of the fog ettened in my eyelids stirred person, those doors stirred nigh at the edges of boats. The truck, a beat-up Chevy Silverado I'd inherited from my pa, had been acting up for weeks. The engine would hiccup now and then, like it was choking on bad gas. I figured it was the fuel filter, meant to replace it but never got around to it. Around 2 a.m., deep in the heart of the Monongahela National Forest, it finally gave out. One moment I was cruising along a straight stretch, the road humming in my tires. The net, the injured cuff, sputtered and lost power. I coasted to a stop on a gravel shoulder, the kind is barely wild enough for one vehicle, flanked by a sheer drop on one side and impenetrable woods on the other. The silence hit me like a wall. No crickets, no owls, just a tick-tick at a cooling engine and the faint rustle of leaves and a breeze I couldn't feel. I could therefore admit, cursing under my breath, my hands gripping the wheel tight. Sarah would worry if I didn't call, but sales service out here is a joke. Bars come and go like ghosts. Grandma toolkit from beyond the sea, the old well bought welding wrenches of pliers, and stay eyeing to jail. The air smelt to death, earth and pond resin, syrup and pee, but undercut by some meals, a feet rot like forgotten meat. A bob hood, propping it up with the wad, the som flies lie to goats at unden. Everything looked normal at first glance, hoses intact, belts not slipped. I leaned in closer, wiping sweat from a brow despite the cool night, and that's when I heard it. A low growl, rolling out from the tree line like thunder in the distance. It wasn't a bear. I've hunted enough to know their rumble. This was different, guttural, almost human, but warped, like someone trying to speak to beautiful grapple. My skin crickled, hair standing on end. I froze, flashlight beam trembling in my hand, and listened. The wind picked up, whispering through the branches, carrying echoes that sounded like distant voices, murmuring words I couldn't quite make out. I told myself it was nothing, Just a fox or a bobcat. Maybe even my imagination planned tricks after too many hours on a roar. A D-Dan, a knot formed in my tut, the kind that warns you something's wrong. I swept the light across the underbrush, the beam cutting swides through the fog. At first, nothing, just twisted roots and ferns dripping with moisture. Then, eyes. Twin points of reflection, glowing amber in the dark, too high for a small animal, too spaced for a deer. They blinked once, delirious, and my heart slammed against my ribs. I biked up the step, tool in hand like a weapon, and called out, "Hey, who's there?" Voice echoed back, swallowed by trees. No answer. The eyes swiftly moved closer. A shape resolved in shells, a figure hunched at first on all fours like a beast. Waggy cools off its frame, torn flannel and jeans kicked in mud, skeletal loons poking through holes. Hair, matted and wild, falling over a face that was human but not. Pale skin stretched tight over bones, eyes sunken and feral, teeth, beard, and a snout, spoth illy find. It rose slowly, unfolding to stand upright, shouting fall with a gait that was wrong, joyth popping like dry branches. The growl deepened, vibrating in my chest. I slammed the hood down, a clang echoing like a gunshot, and bolted for the cab. My keys, where were my damn keys? I fumbled in my pocket, fingers numb, as claws scraped against the metal door, a screech that set my teeth on edge. The thing was at the truck now, his breath fog in the window, face pressed close enough that I could see the dirt under its nails, the scars crossing his cheeks like it had clawed at itself. A jammed key into the ignition, twisting hard. The engine turned over, once, twice, then roared the light, headlights flaring and illuminating the horror fully. It launched. Body slamming into the door would have forced a dent at the panel and cracked the glass in a spiderweb pattern. Shards tinkled out to the seat as I floored the accelerator, tires spinning on the loose gravel, spinning rocks into the night. In the rearview mirror, more shakes slunk out from the woods. 3, maybe 4, all similar, gone, wild, moving with a pack's coordination. They chased, loping on 2 legs and 4, howls rousing in a chorus that blended with the wind, primal and hungry. The road twisted ahead, fog swirling like living smoke, and I pushed the truck to its limits, engine whining in protest. Branches whipped at the sides as I veered close to the edge, the drop-off yawn blocked below. One of them leaped onto the tailgate, claws digging into the bed with a metallic thunk. I swerved sharply, hearing it tumble off with a yelp. The others kept pace for what felt like miles, their forms flickering in the taillights, eyes reflecting raid like daemons. My hand shook on a wheel, sweat stinging my eyes, mind racing with questions. Who were they? Escaped lunatics, hail folk gone mad from isolation? Or some older, born from the mountain secrets, remnants of families swallowed by a wilderness during the Great Depression, surviving on roots and rage? The Appalachians hold their secrets tight, and once it glimpsed them, they never truly let you go. Expanding on aftermath, the days following were a haze. I got the truck fixed. Mechanics shook their heads at the damage, muttering about damn vandals or big gain. But the scratches were too precise, too deep for tools or hooves. Sarah noticed the change in me immediately, the way I'd startled at night sounds, the insomnia it had me pacing a porch till dawn. Elmy drew pages of days monsters, stick-faced, wild hair, mind to force a life tuck it where I wouldn't see. I tried researching once, late night on the computer, taping in feral people Appalachia. Forums lit up with similar stories, hikers chased off trails, campers hearing whispers outside tents, even a ranger's report of humanoid tracks near old mining shafts. One post stood out, a woman claiming her brother vanished in the 80s, only to be spotted years later, wild and unrecognizable, leading a group in the woods. Authorities dismissed his folklore, but the details matched too closely. Now, living in the suburbs, the mountains feel distant, but their pool is insidious. Last fall, we visited family, and driving those roads in daylight, I felt watched. A glimpse in a tree line, a shadow too tall, too still. I spared up, hard racing, and didn't tell Sarah. Because what if admitting it makes it real? What if those things remember scents, faces, and one day beside the highway is a barrier enough? The linger and fear is the worst, the confusion of not known. Were they victims, twisted by hardship, or something the land itself birthed to guard its depths? Sorrow creeps in too, thinking of what lives they might have had, families more in ghosts. But mostly is dread, cold and constant, that in these vast, unforgiving hills, we're all just one breakdown away from joining zone. It was a rainy November night, the con that soaks through your bones even when you're tucked inside a car. I'd left Knoxville after a long day at the construction site, muscles aching from hauling rebar under gray skies that promised worse were. Moise lies, they'd grown up in these mountains, but had moved away for work years ago. That trip was to visit my folks in Knoxville. Mom wasn't doing well, her arthritis flaring with the cold fronts rolling in. Dad had called, his voice gravelly over the phone, saying she missed me, and guilt gnawed at me enough to make the drive despite the forecast. I figured the Blue Ridge Parkway chase in time, even if man navigating those serpentine roads in the dark. Big mistake looking back. The rain started light, a patter on the windshield that lulled into complacency. But by the time I hit the parkway, it was coming down in sheets, drumming on the roof like impatient fingers. The wipers slapped back and forth, smearing the world into streets of black and gray. Up there, the roads twist like they're alive, hugging the ridges with sheer drops on one side and walls of rock and trees on the other. Fog crept in from the valleys, thick and milky, reducing visibility to a few yards ahead. My high beams only made it worse, reflected back like I was driving into a wall of cotton. I'd been on a roll for hours, a dashboard clock going 1:17 a.m., and fatigue settling in, heavier mist. The radio's my only companion, but even that betrayed me. Stations famed as static, a cavern burst of country music, a dark trolls crackling or dissolving into white noise. I remember sipping lukewarm coffee from a thermos, the bitter taste grounding me as I leaned forward, peering through the glass. That's when I first noticed it, a flicker in a rearview mirror. At first, I thought it was headlights from another car, distant pen bricks cut through rain. Relief washed over me. Company on this god-forsaken stretch would be welcome. But as minutes ticked by, they seemed close in, growing brighter, then dimming erratically. I glanced back one after, squinting, but the fog played tricks, swirling, obscuring. No engine hum followed, no telltale rumble or tire with beam. Just the intermittent glow, like eyes blinking in the dark. I shut my eye, limiting our tiredness or reflections of the rude. Get quick lights and mud to myself, turning up the static to drown out the unease creeping up my spine. The parkway climbed higher, the air grown colder, seeping through the cracks in my old Subaru's doors. I'd passed a few overlooks earlier, pull-offs with tourists stopped for views, but at night they were empty voids swallowed by the murk. Memories of childhood trids flooded in, Di pointing out the layers of blue ridges fading into the horizon, telling stories of Cherokee legends, spirits wander in the mists. I also wondered about the practical dangers, rock slides, wildlife, and folks who got lost and never found their way back. The mountains don't forgive mistakes, I'd say, as pipe smooth curling at the far outside. I pushed the odds aside, focusing the yellow lawn snake in the air, but the flicker persisted, not always living with my terror lights. No lights are realized with a chill, no vehicle at all, just shadows dancing in the rain-lashed mirror. Then came the third, a solid impact against the rear bumper, jolting the car forward. My coffee spilled, hot liquid splash in my tires as I swerved, tires hydroplaning on the slick asphalt. Hard hammering, I grit the wheel, creaking just before the guardrail loom. What the hell? Aghast, post roaring in my ears. To be a deer, corner here, bounding on the woods of the warning. A slow to a crawl, flashing, and pulled over as far as the nurse so loud. Rain poured the roof like gunfire now. My set in mowing, reading deep and strongly. No chase checked. If I hit something, might be suffering, or worse, damaging my axle. A gram of food for light, sorry so sporty. A flashlight worked, and zipped up my jacket. Stepping out, the cold slop rained soaking my head instantly. The air was thick, hairy, with the scent of wet earth, pie, and sorry, metallic, like frost boy in rust. I scanned the roadside, be cut of the drivel, only pause the bond of the jaws. No bite, no fur tough a carcass sprawled in the pavement. Just a endless curtain of rain, fog shroud trees marching up a slope. I walked by toward the rear of the car, shoes squishing in the mud, light playing over the bumpery. A dent, fresh and deep, with no blood, no hay, odd. Then, from the ditch beside the road, a rasping breath, wet and labored, like someone drowning in their own lungs. My stomach twisted, I froze, listening. It came again, ragged, accompanied by a faint rustle, like something shifting underbrush. "Hello? You okay?" I called, voice suave at the storm. No answer, just that breathing, grown stare, more deliberate. Against bare judgment, I approached and, phone like tingling in the wind. The ditch saw, feel the warmth, a there hunt in muck with a fine, human like, long, curved feel, skin pale as moonlight, sky to mow with dirt. My nails dug into moth-like moops, and my hair hung in tains, obscuring the face. It was a close mutt, just rag came to a gut frame, ribs protruding like a star of dog. It turned its head slowly, deliberately, eyes meet in the light, vacant yet predatory, pupils violated wide, reflecting the beam like a cat's. A low whine escaped its lips, guttural in pain, foam flack in the corners of a mouth twisted in agony or hunger. My breath caught. This wasn't a hiker, not some accident ticker. The scent of blood intensified, emanating from it, mingled with ride. I bite the weight, Winstead, and two, Maud sucking at my boots. "Stay back," I whispered, more to myself and but sprang alarm in the dilly, unfolding spite from its wear, link snapping into motion. Fingers clawed really, right and laid, yanking hard. I went down, flush into wet grind, the cold shock stealing my air. We wrestled there in the mud, rain blinding, its strength unnatural for such a wasted by. I was on top of the Eston, breath hard filed against my face, teeth snapping air from the throat. I could feel the both of his end, sore and unyielding, a grip as iron, nails rigging a dray, hair and fire. Pain surged, wedged, knee and knit to his side, lifting a yelp of almost human. It recoiled enough for me to roll free, scrambling on all fours toward the car. My phone tumbled into the ditch, light winking out, plunging us into deeper dark. Behind me, it scrambled after, whine and turn into snarls, joined by echoes from the fog, more breaths, more rustles. I reached a door, yanking it open, dabbing inside as its hands pounded the hood, denting metal with dull thuds. Locking the doors, a fumbled foot of keys, engine turning over on the first try. Through the rain-streaked windows they emerged, others slinking from the tree line, fog parting like curtains. One pressed a palm to the glass, face a blur, scars and filth, mouth moved in silently, like a plea or curse. They tested the handles, rocked the car, their coordination chilling, like a family, bound by some sheared madness, turned savage about isolation at these peaks. A wreath engine, tire spinning, mop for catting, peeler on the row. Thoughts fade behind, Their forns dissolve, mist in a review. A juve blight, sedoned clam, curd stay jufized, god rail skein spouts. The view stack speak, almost 4 words, I slate off, size perhu to go some head. Miles blurred, rain easing as I descended toward Asheville, lights of civilization winking ahead. I didn't stop until my parents' driveway, collapsed it against a wheel, sobs racking me. That was 2 years ago. Mom passed last spring, but Dad still asks why I don't visit more, why I take the long way around now. I tell them it's the traffic, but the truth festers. I see those eyes in every fog bank, hear that whine in the wind through the ponds. Would they escape from some forgone sign? Ascendants of moonshiners gone by, prohibition days, surviving scraps and secrets? Or just people like us, broken by the Mons relentless brid, one band winter away the Thero. The saw hit hard, Menja and lies would do for that, family splintered into packs hunting the passes. I avoid a parkway now, but the dread lingers, a quiet companion on every dry. What if they're still out there, waiting in a rain for the next soul to swear? Or worse, what if one day the fog goes in closer, breathe into my door? Looking back, the signs were there all along, subtle as the mist itself. The weight of radio static seemed to pulse with rhythm earlier, like distant calls echoing through the ether. I dismissed it, chalking it up to interference from the ridges. But now I wonder if it was them, communicating in ways we've forgotten. Growing up, I'd heard whispers in the schoolyard, kids swapping tales of wild man spotted by hunters, gonnet figures vanishing into hollows. One story stuck, a logger in the 70s who claimed a group dragged off his partner during a storm, leaving only boot boots that turned a beer fever in the mood. Authorities called it exposure, but the old folks noted knowingly, saying the Appalachians breed their own kind of lost. As I climbed a parkway that night, the isolation deepened. No other cars, no ranger stations lit up, just me and the endless ribbon road. The flickering mirror grew insistent, almost hypnotic, drawing my gaze back repeatedly. When the came, it wasn't just impact, I was deliberate, allure. Stepping out, the rain that heavier, let the sky surf of pressing down, and that metal tang, blood, yes, but congealed, the for want that never heal. The ditch breed for so, one thing goo. The fee is ours, the lot on my, hell no recognition to the body. Its whine vibrated through me, stirring pity amid the terror. Was this once a mother, a brother, reduced to this? The grapple was thistle, mud caking my skin, its weight pinned me, breath wry with exertion and disease. Riz cracked into my kick, the siren muffled by rain, and good flickered as a flare. In the car, surrounded, the faces pressed nouse. One hit her market dangling from its nap, harnessed but glinting, rem humai cleon. Drawn away, the thumps echoed longer than they should, fading in moonry. At my fight sauce, Dad found me shivering, wrapped me in a blanket, but asked no questions. One men know where the luts others lie. No inquire moments, sorrow wells up for them, outcasts in the wild, and confusion for what the hills had. Fear, though, is the constant, the sense that the fog connects us all, and one rainy night it might draw me back into their fold. The draw etched itself into my routines, altering subtly. I check mirrors obsessively now, even on city streets, half expecting those eyes. Sleep brings dreams of the parkway, endless loops where the third repeats, and this time I don't escape. There I beheld some. The doc called it PTSD from a wild animal encounter, but she didn't see their faces, the way they moved like can protecting their own. Leastwa, I drove near there again, daylight this time, and pulled over an overlook. The views were stern, blues layering into thirty, but a chill wind carried echoes, faint whines lost in the rustle. A ranger passed, nodding, and I almost asked if it heard reports of something. But words failed. Some truth stayed buried in the mists. The mountains endure, indifferent, their secrets ferial and free. And me, I'm left with the lingering ache, wondering if isolation breeds the beast in all of us, waiting for the rain to call it forth. The drive had edged itself into my routines, altering them suddenly. I check mirrors obsessively now, even on city streets, half expecting those eyes. Sleep brings dreams of the parkway, endless loops where the thud repeats. This time, I don't skate. Therapy some. The doc called it PTSD from a wild I cover. But she didn't see their faces, the way they moved like can protecting their own. Last ball, I drone you there again, daylight this time, and pull over an old look. The views were stunning, blues layering into a fairy, but chill wind carry echoes, fate wise lost in the rustle. The wager passed none, and it almost asked it heard reports of something. The words stay, some truths stay buried in the mists. Minds endure, indifferent, their secrets furrow and free. Me, I'm left with a lingering ache, wondering if isolation breathes the beast in us, waiting for the rain to call forth. I remember that drive like a scar that never quite heals, eaching under a scan on quiet nights. It was early fall, leaves just starting to turn Great Smoky Mountains, where I spent the weekend fishing with my brother Jake. We'd cast line into those cold, clear streams near Gatlinburg, but trout that simmered like silver in faint light. Taking on St. John nights is an to Knoxville for what, and those trips were our way of holding on to the old days, sitting by a fire, swapping stories about Dad and the way he taught us to read the water. But that Sunday, I left late, around 10 p.m., wanting to beat the Monday rush back to my job in Johnson City. Interstate 40 cuts through the hard Appalachians there, a ribbon of concrete threading between ancient ridges that feel like they're watching, even in the daylight. At night, it's a different beast altogether. The road's empty. The girl ending presses in on it, making the cab on an old Toyota pickup feel small. I crack the window for fresh air, but the chairs seat in, carrying the scent damp earth and decaying leaves. A dorm's coffee gone cold hours ago, bitter slush a deluge or fatigue no in my others. Head that pierced the dark, illuminating guardrails scarred from past wrecks, in the occasional reflector post glowing like eyes in underbrush. I'd ridden this stretch 100 times, as something felt off that night. The air heavier, the sounds deeper into the overpasses. Those stretchers are rilks, built back in the 60s, concrete pavements osh of the highway. Their undersides channeled by overhanging branches from the oaks and maples that prowled embankments. They block out the stars, turning the space beneath into a void where sound echoes strangely, amplified and distorted. I was humming along to a staggy country station, some old Johnny Cash tune by walking the line, when it happened. A fade darted across the road, hey, quick, a blur on the high beams, too upright for a deer, too aloof for a raccoon or possum. My foot slammed brakes instinctively, tires screeching on the pavement as the truck skidded to a halt right under one of those overpasses. The echo of the stop was deafening, rubber on asphalt reballing off the concrete like a gunshine cane. Hot Poundy sat there, hands white-knuckled on the wheel, scanning the road. Nothing, no boy, no woman. Damn fool, I muttered to myself, digging one a bit hitchhiker. Someone desperate enough to thumb a ride in the dead of night. But who runs like that? I waited a beat, engine idling, before deciding the check. Better safe than driving off if I'd clip someone. Stepping all, it cooled his hair, wrapping around me like a wet blanket. The rain from earlier stopped, but the air heavy with moisture, dripping from the branches above. I grabbed my flashlight from the glove box, a happy maglite that doubled as a cub with me, and shunned around. The beam cut through the gone, illuminating cracked pavement and the weeds pushing through hedges. No blood, no tracks, just the faint mumble of a truck and deep who else somewhere in the trees. A chair deeper, not the fun temperature, prickling the back of my neck like the air itself was watching hold its breath. I walked a few paces, light sweeping the shoulders, and that's when I heard it. A soft scraping from above, like nails dragging on stone, slow and deliberate. Froze, beam tilting upward. Underside the overpass with maze shells, girders and supports crossed with grinding bird droppings. The scraping came again, closer, accompanied by faint drip. Something wet landing on my shoulder, warm and vicious. Wiped off, and come way sticky, ain't lie eye. Silhouettes. First it was bats, some nesting birds, but no, these larger human shade, cling vert concrete, leans elongated and twisted for God knows what. Arms lead hooked and cracked, by suspended like spider and web. Their skin glee, pale flashlights glow, scar and dirt street, clothes numb, tires eye loose. Odd foot to bod, fade, hungry, wanting was dunes to turn my blood to ice. One dodged, drawn solidly, landing with a soft third on the pavement a few feet away. It crouched low, knees bent, tutors assessing prey. Its eyes glow faintly malaise, fairy, star, pupils wide in the dark. Hair mad and wild, fall over face though want human, not gone to art-heed, mouth slightly open to a few uneven tooth. A mood with predatory grace, shift and weight from one foot to the other. Breaths come in ragged halves. A bad dab, flashlight being shaken. Hey, stay back. My voice echo under the breeze, bouncing back, start, all's mocking. Lund for one, fingers wrapping round my arm like vines, nails digging in through my jacket. The strings shaking, wiry, unyielding, hui toward the shadows where more stared, dropping one by one. I fought back, so my free hand, but grit tightened, low eye escaping his throat, almost like a word was in ras. Another one behind me, walking by, drop, it brahal my neck, whispers mooring, please, what, firemen's when with men by one's disuse. Help, gone, hunger is something like, syllables blending into the scraping echoes. Panic surged, I swung a flashlight like a club, connecting with bone, a second and crack as it hit the first one's shoulder. It yoked, grit loosening enough for me rent-free, fabric tear. Both of her came, the pounding paving, but the second grabbing leg, tripping me. A sprawl, chin scraping asphalt, tasting wood, a kicked out, boot meeting flesh with a third. Scrambling up, I dove into the driver's seat, slamming the door, as hands pound in the window, faces pressing close. More now, 4 or 5, swarm in the vehicle like wolves on a down elk. Glass quacked under the assault, spy-webbing from fist to elbow, a nail screeching on middle. The whisper intensified, a chorus under the brood, echoing in my head. I twisted the key, engine roaring a life, headlights flare into the horror fully. Bodies twisted by years of whatever hill they'd endured, maybe miners trapped in a collapse long ago, or families fled into the hills during hawk times, surviving on scraps until humanity eroded away. I accelerated, tires spin briefly before catching, the truck lurching forward. Flumpsing hood, one coon for one who were tumbling off, the overpass shrieking the mirror as the safe failed to the door. Ein stopped for miles, puffins bedoond pes courage em. In stay streamed wintry, wound tours lights or restary, even new a want ooze, sin into ruin to dawn grey with sky. My arm scratcheth deep enough to fall, and the sticky drop on my shoulder, spit blower, I know, stayed my shirt. G call the next morn, word when it then takes, Miss Sally say new bear. Growing in these brats were the lands, forest folk, war people descended from civil dwarfs on Prussian stars, learn handles under man-made shadows, forgotten by world. Thou 5 years back, I still fish the Smokies, but never alone, and I take the long way around R40 at night, opting for surface roads even if it adds hours. Overpasses army, the undersized commandos cling fours, with patience the concrete crumbs. What were they really? Victims of isolation, hunger twisted them into something prime? Guardians are always, the Mons wave remind us were it trues. The confusion law's worst. I imagine the wispy forming words, or was the pliny, Riemann souls begging the lease? Sorrow crease into, being laws were reduced to the phony spleen, pax and rouges, echoing on my knees. No, why, word words went akin, park losses on us during storms. But the draft lingers, a shadow in every echo, a whisper in the wind through garters. Last summer, driving with Jake, we passed that spot in daylight, concrete graffiti scared, nothing amiss, but I felt eyes, a prickle like before, and hurried on. The Appalachians for their secrets course, buried in ridges, under the roads we built over 'em. And sometimes, when the night's still, I wonder if those whispers follow me home, waiting for the next time fatigue or fate pulls me under. Or flaking under the build-up is there all along, sows father sometimes roses the Smokies. The fishing trade uneasy, Jake mentor all tracks about stream, too large for bear, too spaced for human. We left off, bleeding moon sign stores from locals about Braytors. Folks gone missing and resurfaced and changed, lurking in the man-made caves overpasses. That of one tale from his trucking days, a big stot for a smoke under a bridge near here, heard scratching, saw shadows drop. Never the same after, quit the road to drunken. I dismissed it then, at that night, with the cooled and the radio fade, stories wormed in. Stopping under the overpass, a sound is unusual. No crickets, no distant says, just my brats and a drift from above. A scraping started fade, le rose and walls, but grew directional from multiple points. When the drought hit, wore into the chill, instinct screamed run, but curiosity, or soupe, held me. Looking up, the silhouette shifted, all screwed, but they'd been weighing, patient priors on the concrete layer. When it dropped first, its landings too soft, too controlled for something feral. Eyes locked on my, not blinking, a intelligence there amid the wildness. The lunge was fluid, fingers cold as death wrapping my arm, pulling with purpose toward the darkness where others murmured. Their whispers, God, they hunt me, fragments like join, us, cold, or maybe my mind filling gaps. Fighting back, the flashlight's impact vibrated my arm, the yoke echoing human enough to twist my gut with pity. Escaping, the truck's roar shattered the hush, but their thirds pursued briefly, fading like ghosts. At the restary, vending the sheen coffee tasted like regret, arm bandaged with napkins. I called my wife then, voice stay, but she heard the shake, urged me home say. Now, she knows as what the Torah brothers, jokes about phobia, but doesn't push. Researching later, and anonymously online, turned up forums of similar encounters, truckers spotting climbers under I-40, Rangers dismissing as homeless, but whispers of more. Entire clans living off-grid, in the interstitial spaces between civilization and wild. One post detailed rescue attempt gone wrong, volunteers vanishing into the shadows. Official reports blame drugs or delusion, but the patterns match too close. The sorrow deepens with time. Mongene origins, paths kids orphan and flies, grown twisted in isolation, or vet and forgotten war seeking solitude the Kasu. Confusing mains, whether they tapping or evading, their madness new to our own hurried laws. Fear those that anchor, every underpass now potential lair, every scrape a call. The maws endure, their underbelly like lost, left wondering if won't I, a whisper so draw me back, into the concrete, into the fall. The answer reshape our routines, so at first, I carry a bright flashlight mo, a knife and a console, chuck weather apps for clear nights. Jake fish less, or talk skirting the edges of that drive. Last visit, he admitted hearing things too, scrapes in his garage, eyes in the dark. Coincidence, we say, but doubt lingers. In dreams, I'm balcony the bridge, light failing, silhouette dropping anglers. Weaken, the dread clings, the reminder that the Appalachian's beauty hides bars. Where all wind dartens shadow away from the water, and those creatures, people once, wait patient, their whispers echoing in every hollow space. It was one of those nights when the moon hangs so low and bright, it feels like you could reach out and touch it. I drove out to Pittsburgh for a concert at old Rex Ear, some bluegrass revival outfit that made the floorboard shake with banjo fill. The encore lingered too long, talking to strangers, drinking one more beer, telling myself a 4-hour haul back to Rhode would be found. Route 219 through Allegheny is the kind of road you only take if you want to feel the mountains instead of just looking at them. Narrow, no shoulder, trees crowned right up to the white line like they're listening. I rode the Lindos down the Snake Lake, but the cold turbid air slapped me so. The moon painted everything in silver and black. The asphalt gloomed like a river of milk between walls of pine. I'd been driving maybe 90 minutes when the tones really sounded. The kind that makes you out to drift, and the radio starts sounding like someone else's dream. Or somewhere north of Marlinton, deep in Pocahontas County, where sail towers give up and only lays what you bring with it. That's when I heard, carried on the wind through an open window, a long rising howl, the whizzing of coyote, and sorry sound as in the bell. It was human that the root is shred, like someone dreams stream full briars. I turned real. The sound came again, farther off, answered by another, thinner voice. Just the wind, told myself. Wind, drunk hillbillies messing around. I caught my neck, saw straight, kept on. The road curved, the sidewinder, climbing and frothing without water. Every time rather bend, a moonlight or fire so heavy can be, then flood the in, slowly cough the windshield. I was doing 60, maybe 65, when the shadow came out of nowhere. 1 second the road was empty, the next, something big and dark launched from the left embankment and hit the hood with a bomb that rattled my teeth. The Jeep lurched, metal screaming, and a stew in the brakes. The thing slid forward, palms slapping the windshield, and stayed there, clinging like a tick. The moon wed up close and merciless. It had been a man once, was naked, except for a rags of what might have been a flannel shirt years ago. Beard down to his chest, matted with leaves and God knows what else. Skin pale and filthy, stretched tight over bone. But the eyes, those were a worst part. Wide, bloodshot, shining with the moon, staring straight through glass into me. His mouth worked open in a silent scream, lips cracked and bleeding, and his hands, Christ, his fingernails were long and yellow, curled like talons, scraping across the windshield and long, deliberate streets that left muddy smears. I could hear the claws ticking on the glass, even over the engine. I yelled something, I don't remember what, and jerked the wheel hard to lurked. A Jeep fishtail, but he rooted, knees locked, fingers hooked somehow into the gap at the edge of a hood. And rearview was some movement, explode, trees, more shapes, or five, loping low on fours, and the rise of it two legs and dropping again, keeping pace with me like wolves flanking a wounded deer. Their howls rose together now, close enough to feel him a chest, a floored, a speedometer clanned past 80 on road, age enough to go past 50. A thing her shift, crawly fool who his face filled the windshield, breath fogging the glass and frantic pulse. He slanged the forehead guessing once, twice, leaving blood cracks. I swerved again, harder, this time toward the right embankment, hoping to scrape him off against a guardrail. He slid sideways but held on, one hand shooting out to grip the roof rack. That's when the passenger window exploded inward. Another one had run alongside, matched my speed somehow, and drove his fist through the glass like it was tissue. Shorts flew everywhere. A cold night wesh in, along with a smell, rat and wet dog and something coppery. A hand, claw, closed around a collar of my jacket and yanked so hard my seatbelt cut into my shoulder. I elbowed back blindly, connected with something that gave like raw meat. The grip loosened just enough for me to mash the accelerator again. The road bent sharp left around what face. I took it too fast, tires screaming, a deep till two-wheel for our beat. A creature on who lost purchase, flew, wrong to ditch a human by sim make us abide. But on a seat a go up. The one in the passenger window still half inside, or little claws awaken the cold halo. A grub impy bell from the console smashed against the side head. The bar sawed, beer and glass and blood spraying. It shrieked that same torn human sound and tumbled out the broken window. I couldn't fud down, engine where lie, curves going too fast to think. In the mirror, the pack stayed witten longer than anything human should. Moonlight flashing of pale skin, wide hair, mouths open in those awful cries. Then the road straightened for half a mile, rare on 219, and a push 90. Slowly they fell behind, shapes shrinking, until a house thinned until a wind and a tree swallowed them again. I didn't slow until I hit the outskirts of Elkins, pulled into the empty lot of a shuttered egg sign, and sat under the armed security light with the engine running and every door locked on. My hands one start shaking. The windshield was cracked or starburst where his head had hit. The passenger seat glittered with glass and smears of blood that wasn't mine. I found scratches in my neck and chest where claws had come through a car, shallow but burning. I cleaned up with napkins and the last of my barbed wire, then drove the rest of the way with the heat blasting and heavy light in the cab on, like a kid scared of the dark. That was 8 years ago. I still love Las News, but I plan better now. I leave before an encore, take the interstate even if it adds 2 hours, and I never, ever drive 219 after sunset. Sunset, moon's full, back roads call. People ask why Flint at certain house when we're camping, or why I won't pull over a piss on lonely mountain roads anymore. I just say I saw a bear once, but the truth is heavier. Out there in the Alleghenies, past with pavement ends and haws get deep, things that used to be people. Maybe moonshiners who never came back from the woods. Maybe families the coal camps forgot when the seams plea out. Maybe deserters from wars we don't talk about anymore. Doesn't matter. The mountains took 'em, fed 'em, changed them. And on certain nights, when a moon is bright enough to hunt by, they come down to the road looking for what was stolen from them. Warmth, company, or maybe just the sound of another heartbeat. I still drive those roads in daylight sometimes. The curves beautiful, the views breathtaking. But every time I pass a stretch where the trees lean close and the moonlight drips through like milk, I ease off to gas a little. But gas so live behind me, in a tree line, I swear I hear claws ticking softly, waiting for next headlights to slow down just a knife. I wonder how long Meg and Roan from something that already knows the trace of this view. The fog started as a thin veil when I left Knoxville, just a suggestion of moisture hanging over a French Broad River. But by the time I turned onto 421, it had thickened into something alive. October nights and alives, dude. The walleys hold the cold, the ridges shed, and the mist rises like breath from the earth itself. I chosen the scene where, because the interstate felt too loud after a long week, quiet. Wanted to feel the road dip and climb under the tires of my old Subaru, the way it had when I was a kid riding shotgun with my dad. I told myself to draw it with clear my head. Instead, it filled it with ghosts I didn't know waiting. I remember the dashboard car going 247 when the royal give up complete. Stack east, then signs. The only signs after that were the tires and wet asphalt and soft kick acre turn signal whenever a road bent. The moon's dark coin behind cloud, useless. My headlights pushed through maybe 20 feet, and then it died away, flicking back at me because drawers are a ping-pong ball. A Sloan 40, then 30R. A fire pressed against the window the way wood presses against a door of meant, patient and told. Road 3, the GPS lady lost her mind. 1 minute she was calmly telling me to continue on 421 for 38 miles. The mix she was stuttering, recalibrating, spitting out directions that didn't match any road I could see. I took less what she insisted, and was a shortcut she fondly remembered. The pavement narrowed immediately, chip seal giveaway cracked asshole, lined Leo mailboxes and sagging marred wire. Abandoned farms appeared and vanished in the mist like half-remembered dreams. Collapsed tobacco barns, solos leaning like drunks, rusted cultivators swallowed by kudzu, porch roofs caved in on houses nobody had lived in since my grandfather's time. I told myself I had turned around at the next wide spot. There never was a next wide spot. That's when the feelings died, sought that the spider walking close about to your neck. I was being watched, not the casual glance of a deer at the tree line. This was heavier, deliberate. I checked the mirrors, nothing but fog. Still, the scan between my shoulder blades tightened, the way it does when you walk past a graveyard and realize you hold in your breath. I rolled the window dot an inch to listen, only the engine and soft hush of ties. I rolled back up. Then, in rear view, something moved. At first, it was just a shift in the white, a darker patch sliding along the edge of the road. Then another, and another. They were loaded aground, moving in a crouch, keeping exact pace with me, no matter how I nudged the speedometer. I eased off the gas, and they slowed. I tapped a brake, and they stopped. When I crept forward again, they crept with me. My mouth went dry. I told myself they were dogs, big dogs, maybe a pack of feral hounds someone dumped years ago. But dogs don't move like that. Fluid, synchronized, razzing sometimes onto 2 legs to peer over the mist before dropping back down. I sped up. They sped on. Bare feet sucked pavement behind me, soft, almost soundless, but I heard the oar saying. The leader was a woman, or had then, tall, gaunt, hair hanging in wet ropes that hid most of her face. She ran with her arms loose at her sides, palms turned backward in a way no normal runners ever would. Would she reach the trunk? She didn't grab a claw. She simply placed one pale and flag to Mel and cut there, much speed perfectly. Finger spray like she was few vibrated ender. This is the tour was, 'twas 3 tars, a as a hard wit. A sour carried straight through a chassis in my spies. I punched the guys. The Subaru lurked, but the road twisted hard left, then right, climbing a grade where a shoulder dropped into nothing. I had to brake or sail into the darkness. They used that hesitation. Suddenly they were everywhere, beside both doors, behind, ahead, fanning out across the asphalt like they'd rehearsed it. No shouting, no snails, just breathing, wet, exciting breathing, and a sight, pad, pad, pad of feet. One appeared at my driver's side window so quickly the glass fogged from the heat of its body. A man, I think, cheekbones sharp as broken glass, eyes sunken but bright, lips peeled back in something that wasn't quite a smile. He kept pace without apparent effort, head cocked, studying me away a study of fish in an aquarium. His breath left cloudy blooms that slid down a glass in slow motion. Another press against the passenger side, a child maybe, small, hairless, skin to color a river clay. He placed both palms in the window and leaned in to its foil-touched glass, leaving greasy print. Its mouth moved and no sound came through, just the shape of a word over and over. I couldn't read and want to. They were trying to stop the car. They were hurrying me. Every time I considered a side road, one of them would step into it first, arms out, forcing me to swerve back to the center line. When I tried to speed up, the one slacked the trunk again, warning. The road narrowed further, guardrails ending, drop us deepening. The mist thin just enough for me glimpse well taken me. The old wooden bridge, planks rod, mill section collapsed into the ravine decades ago. Moonlight showed the gap like a missing tooth. I could already feel the car nosing over the edge, the long fall, the silence after. I don't remember deciding. I just yanked the wheel hard right off the pavement into the weeds and saplings that whipped the doors like switches. The Subaru bounced and slammed. Something underneath screeched metal on rock, but I kept my foot down. Branches exploded across the windshield. For a heartbeat I thought they'd follow, that I'd feel hands on the roof, but when I risked a look in the mirror, the mist had swallowed them. No footsteps, no shapes, just the empty road unrolling behind me like nothing it had been. I drew like nothing miles off-road, aidlet stadded through briars and sumac, until head growled, then cracked pavement again. Only when the dashboard caught read 412 and first real road song be, did I pull over, kill the engine, and sit in the sudden quiet. My shirt was sweat even though the heat was off. The car stank of wet leaves and fear. On the rear bumper, perfect, muddy handprint, long fingers, too long, still wet. I made it to Roanoke as the sun came up, pale and watery through the haze. I never told my wife to hold truth. Said I had a deer, took a detour, got turned around in the fog. She traced the scratches on the doors and a dent in the roof and didn't press. She knows these mountains the way I do. Some stories you carry alone. That was 6 autumns ago. I still drive 421 sometimes, but only in daylight, only when a forecast is clear. When the mist starts to rise out of the valleys at dusk, I find another way, any other way, because I know what's waiting in the white quiet. They don't need to howl, scream. They don't need to break the glass. They just walk beside you, patient as creek water wearing down stone, gardened deeper until the road ends and the drop begins. Some nights when the fog rolls thick against the windows of a house on the edge of town, I wake up certain I hear it again, that soft slap on metal, the rhythm of bare feet keeping time with my pulse. I check locks twice, 3 times. I leave porch light burning. And I wonder how many others they've walked beside. How many cars never made it out of those valleys. How many handprints are still drying on tailgates rusting at the bottom of ravines no one bothers to search anymore. The mountains keep their own. Foggy nights. They walked the roads looking for the ones who still believed the fog is empty.